It's a ranking evaluation ceremony at Awakeners Academy. To measure the student's strength and potential, the professor summons them one by one into a special portal that leads to a sealed chamber. Inside sits a specially trained demon heart, designed to absorb and evaluate their energy output. It then projects their current rank and future potential for the entire academy to witness. Most students end up as nothing more than pathetic E-rank weaklings. A few feel proud just reaching D rank with decent future prospects. Then, the academy's top genius finally steps forward. As the wealthy heir of the strongest guild, everyone is eager to see what he'll achieve. He walks into the chamber full of confidence, certain he'll become the greatest sensation in academy history and claim the #1 spot. He releases his full power, and outside, the students erupt into loud cheers. The result shows high-tier D rank with the potential to one day reach S rank. His friends are especially thrilled, convinced this arrogant prodigy is an unparalleled talent. One of them even mocks a quiet, humble boy named Chen, who's next in line, saying he's guaranteed to bring nothing but shame. But Chen simply ignores him and walks forward calmly. He enters the room like everyone else, yet this time, the demon heart begins to tremble in fear. Even before Chen uses any skills, the heart already registers a high-tier D rank, stunning the entire audience. Then, he activates the weakest skill card he once devoured from a monster and casually pushes it all the way to C rank. While everyone is still struggling to process what they're seeing, Chen goes even further. He switches to a stronger class, card, and now the demon heart starts panicking wildly. The moment he unleashes his true power, a violent storm swirls in the sky above. The rank display begins glitching, flashing S-rank potential. The professors are left speechless, but this is only the start. Soon, the single S multiplies into triple S rank, and then the system completely overloads, showing an error message. Now genuinely terrified, the professors rush into the testing chamber. When they burst inside, they find the entire room in ruins. The demon heart lies completely fried and lifeless. This has never happened before, so they have no clue what just occurred. Meanwhile, our protagonist casually strolls out. In truth, he had devoured the demon heart after accidentally destroying it with his overwhelming strength. So, who is Chen really, and why is he so powerful? He is a regressor who returned from a horrifying future where demons had conquered the entire world. He was the last remaining survivor, battling endlessly until he finally took down the Demon King in a mutual self-destruction. Then, after a blinding flash of light, he woke up back in the past, lying in his old dorm room. Confused, he wonders if he has somehow reached the afterlife, but when he looks out the window and sees familiar people standing outside, the truth slowly dawns on him. After a moment, it finally sinks in. His greatest wish has been granted, and he has regressed 10 years back to his university days. Just then, a mysterious hologram appears, informing Chen that the integration of the power of gluttony has been successfully completed. As he continues staring out the window, he realizes he now has 3 years left before the first demon lord, Wrath, descends. He remembers clearly that this particular demon lord was the one who triggered everything that followed. Wrath is the one who tears open the gates of hell, allowing the other demon lords to invade the human world one after another. Our hero resolves that he must locate the exact spot where Demon Lord Wrath will appear and eliminate him before the gates can ever be opened. Once he snaps out of his thoughts, Chen turns his attention to the interface floating beside him. It now clearly displays his stats. He wonders if this is some kind of game system or menu, since he never had anything like this in his previous life. Back then, he had only depended on his awakened power, a rare gift that only 1 in 10,000 people possessed. The National Awakener University exists to recruit promising talents like this, but unfortunately, during his previous life, Chen had completely failed to awaken here. At that time, he had grown accustomed to constant bullying, which was exactly why he had woken up in the infirmary like this. Just then, the system opens another panel and displays a lightning-type assassin card. Chen instantly recognizes it as the same class he had obtained in his past life. The boy is startled and wonders if he has awakened earlier this time around. He quickly decides to test it out, but before he can finish switching to the class, his roommate and friend Ma Long arrives. Ma Long is an E-ranked flower chanter. The poor guy has bandages on his cheek and has come to check if Chen is all right. Thankfully, Long cannot see the floating panels, which confirms to Chen that only he can see them. His friend starts examining him carefully after noticing that all of Chen's injuries have already vanished. He wonders how a non-awakener is recovering faster than someone like him, who is already awakened. Our protagonist remembers Long clearly from his previous life. This same roommate had managed to awaken during university, yet he ended up as one of the weakest awakeners and was brutally murdered on the third day after Wrath's descent. Chen smiles quietly as he looks at his old friend once again. Long then reminds him that their rank test is scheduled for tomorrow and that they both need to prepare for it. He feels bad for Chen, believing he still hasn't awakened, and emphasizes that this rank test is extremely important if he wants to graduate. As they walk through the lively streets, Chen casually mentions that it has been a long time since he last saw so many people around, which ends up scaring the hell out of his roommate. Deep inside, Chen keeps thinking that if he does nothing in this life, they will all suffer the same miserable fate again. Because of that, he decides he must train as hard as possible and raise his level quickly. However, there's another problem. At this point in time, the only way for an awakener to gain experience and level up is by defeating monsters inside demon layers. These layers are strictly controlled by the major guilds, which means weak individuals or outsiders like him have almost no chance to level up at all. He opens his status window and examines his stats, wondering where he currently stands compared to other awakeners and even the monsters themselves. The government has classified awakeners into ranks starting from East class all the way up to S class. Chen knows that most students in the university are stuck at E rank, with only a few barely reaching D rank at best. He glances at his friend and quietly mocks him in his head, feeling at least confident that he ranks higher than him. Just then, a ball suddenly flies in and smacks straight into the poor nerd, knocking off his glasses and shattering them on the ground. It turns out they have once again run into the bully Gong Chong and his lackeys, the same guys who beat them up just the day before. Chong smirks and asks the nerd why he didn't bring him crates of drinks when he already knew he was coming here. Long quickly apologizes and is about to go buy the drinks with his own money, but Chen steps in and stops him, declaring that the one who should actually be apologizing is Chun. The moment he sees the bully again, Chen is flooded with painful memories from his past. Back then, they used to try and drown him in sink water, and instead of feeling any guilt, they would claim they were simply forcing him to awaken. That day, they only stopped when Chen finally passed out. Last time, Long had rushed over to check on him, but the moment Chung heard Chen say anything, he came back just to beat him even worse. Now, in the present, Chen has firmly decided to teach these bullies a proper lesson. After hearing Chen speak up, Chung and his lackeys start advancing again, clearly intending to silence him for good. Our hero stares directly at Chung, fully aware that this guy only targets the weak because his older brother is a powerful figure as the student council president. As the bully moves closer, the surrounding students begin to gather, already feeling pity for Chen since they expect him to get brutally beaten once again. When Chung reaches him, he demands to know what Chen had just said. Chen calmly repeats that he should stop bothering them from now on. Hearing this, Chung explodes in rage and instantly throws a punch. This time, however, Chen raises his fist and blocks the attack effortlessly, even shoving the bully backward. Everyone around is left stunned because, as far as they know, Chen is not even awakened yet he had just stopped a strong attack like it was nothing. Chung becomes even more furious and charges in again. Meanwhile, Chen calmly prepares himself and switches his class to Electric Assassin. Long stands there frozen in shock, while Chung activates his indestructible demon armor and rushes forward with a powerful strike. Before he can even get close, Chen dashes in first and smashes him away with a lightning-charged punch. Everyone watching cannot believe their eyes, as the so-called weakling Chen sends the school bully flying with a single hit. Even after getting beaten this badly, Chung refuses to back down and yells at his minions to step in and get revenge. However, his lackeys are already shaken after seeing what Chen just did. Chung forces himself back to his feet and charges at our hero once more. But again, he gets crushed, and slammed away without any chance. Watching their so-called boss get completely overpowered like this, the lackeys quickly realize they stand no chance at all and immediately flee. The poor nerd who witnessed everything is left utterly stunned, unable to close his mouth as he struggles to accept that his roommate, who was beaten just yesterday, has suddenly become this strong. Chin, on the other hand, realizes that just like in his previous life, he can switch into his assassin state whenever he wants. And even at level 1, his stats are more than enough to handle low-level awakeners, which means his current rank should be at least D. But there is still one thing he hasn't confirmed yet. Even after defeating someone, the system has not granted him any level up. Thinking about this, Chin almost moves forward to finish the bully completely, while everyone around watches in panic. Just at the final moment, the vice president of the student council, Ling Yu, steps in and tells Chin to stop. She reminds him that even though Chung was at fault, this level of beating is already more than enough. She assures him that the bully will not dare to trouble him again. Because of that, our hero finally decides to let him go. As he backs off, Chin starts wondering why the student council is so eager to step in and protect someone like Chung. Even though he was only putting on an act and never actually intended to kill him, he knows that people like these bullies need to be punished properly. Otherwise, they will keep targeting anyone weaker than them again and again. Chin then walks away with his roommate, while the bully's lackeys watch him from a distance, hiding and whispering among themselves that they should never even think about provoking Chin again. That night, while Long tries to tell the other roommates how Chin has awakened as an incredibly powerful lightning assassin, none of them take his words seriously. Long keeps describing how their once weak friend managed to crush Chun so badly. But Xiang Zhou, who is an E-ranked nucleus mage, treats the whole story like a joke. Zhou questions that if Chen has truly become such a big shot, then why is he still running around doing basic training like this? He argues that a real awakener wouldn't need to rely on such ordinary physical exercise anymore. Hearing this, the gamer roommate Shan Yu comments that from what he's hearing, it sounds like Long must have taken a hard hit to the head. Zhou continues, saying that the four of them are placed in this dorm because they are the weakest at the bottom, and no matter what they do, that fact isn't going to change. He further claims that he himself is the strongest among the four, while Long and Yu are just support chanters. He flexes a little, telling himself there's no way Chin could have become a lightning assassin. He feels more confident than ever, and hopes he might even rank up during the final test before their graduation tomorrow. Meanwhile, the student council president Gong Ting walks out after finishing a training session inside an E-ranked demon lair, along with Ling Yu. He notices his younger brother still standing there and asks what he is doing. Chun complains that as long as the person who beat him is still around, he can't even sleep peacefully. Chun keeps pressuring his brother, trying to convince him that he must take revenge for him. Ting calmly assures him that he will handle the mess he has created. Later at the dining table, the vice president asks Ting how he plans to deal with the situation. Ting asks her whether the boy is really as strong as his brother claims. Ling Yu points out that he already knows there are fewer than 10 D-ranked students in the entire school, and he has already recruited all of them into his club. She further explains that others don't even have access to demon lairs like he does, which means no average guy should be able to stand against him. On the other side, Chen keeps running like crazy while getting soaked in the rain. He sets a target of running 20 full kilometers while carrying a bag loaded with 100 kilos, almost twice his own body weight. He understands how important basic training is to raise the upper limit of an awakener's strength, since a stronger body is needed to handle higher powers. As he runs, he recalls how his only family, his sister, was killed when the demon lord Wrath descended into the human world. The demon lord slaughtered countless humans in an instant, and his sister died right in front of him. He sets defeating this demon lord as his first goal, since that moment marked the beginning of all the destruction. Chin keeps thinking that if the demon lord is already growing stronger, even though there are still 3 years left before his arrival, then he needs to outpace that growth if he wants any chance of winning. Just then, his sister Tune calls him. Hearing her voice again after so long leaves him completely silent for a moment. His sister explains that she couldn't call earlier because she was busy with the competition, and adds that their rent problem might be solved if she manages to win a prize. While she keeps talking, Chen quietly listens and smiles, feeling a strong resolve to protect her and give her the life she deserves this time. After the call ends, he returns to his training and completes 3 more laps around the university. Once he is done, he heads straight for a shower. Feeling that he is slowly getting used to this younger body that holds tremendous potential for growth, he sits down and starts thinking about the demon layers, which only the rich and powerful can access. To grow stronger, he knows he will need to defeat monsters somehow. While he is stuck pondering this problem, he eventually falls asleep and finds himself pulled into the gluttony system. He lands in a strange place and begins wondering if this is just some kind of bizarre dream. Meanwhile, back outside, Long comes looking for Chen and wonders where he has suddenly disappeared to. Inside that mysterious space, Chen sees a massive tower standing in front of him, but before he can properly take it in, a group of E-ranked cloud warriors known as Death Hounds appear as if to greet him. Chen immediately worries that he might have somehow entered a demon lair and quickly switches his class. He decides to deal with the monsters first and figure everything else out later since they had appeared out of nowhere. The boy easily takes down the hounds that are all bark and no bite, then collects items from them. He quickly levels up to 2 and smiles, thinking he might have gotten lucky and stumbled into a demon lair. Just then, a boss monster appears, and Chen defeats it just as easily, cutting through it like it is nothing, which lets him level up again. The experience points he gains from the boss are much higher compared to the normal mobs of the same level that he defeated earlier. Right after that, the boss monster's body gets marked as devourable, making Chen wonder what that even means. He recalls the gluttony power he saw earlier in the system panel and reaches out his hand to test it. The devouring completes instantly, and the monster gets absorbed into a card. Chen is left stunned as he realizes he can turn defeated monsters into usable classes. He quickly understands that this is the same kind of ability the demon lord Lan Yu had, and the thought that he now holds a power similar to that of a demon lord leaves him shaken. Naturally, in this world, everyone is born with only a single class, apart from some rare cases who could have 2. But now, Chen could hold as many classes as he wanted. He wonders what he did to gain this kind of insane power and what the demonic tower standing in front of him really is. As all these questions pile up in his mind, a strong sensation hits him, and a demon appears holding 2 S-rank blades in its hands. The demon is clearly S-rank, which means Chen has no real chance of defeating it. Chen knows he is badly outmatched, yet he summons a lightning sword to put up a fight as a desperate gamble to save his life. Another strange part is that for some reason, the demon standing before him even knows his name. As time passes, the demon trades blows with Chen. Although it is clear that all it is doing is toying with him, the demon deliberately avoids hitting vital points and keeps knocking him down again and again. After pushing Chen to his limit, the demon finally speaks and offers him the option to stay and guard the demonic tower with it if he wants to survive. When Chen still refuses, the demon slashes brutally at his arm. It threatens to finish him and explains that it has gone easy all this time, only because Chen is the only one capable of reaching this place. The demon asks him once more to reconsider, but Chen does not lose hope and refuses again, regardless of the danger he is putting himself in. He shouts as he charges himself, determined to finish it, and attacks again. All this time, he has been studying the demon's movements and has learned about the 0.4-second windup before each swing. He knows he can use that small time window to carefully observe the angle of the monster's wrist and dodge the attack at the perfect moment. Furthermore, he has discovered a 0.2-second recovery lag that might give him a small but critical opening while the demon is defenseless, and he plans to use that precise moment to strike straight at its heart. Even though he manages to pull off this risky maneuver, he fully realizes that a D rank like him could not completely defeat an S rank. So, his main goal is to paralyze the demon just long enough to create an opportunity to escape. He does exactly that, and then rushes toward the only light source he can see, hoping it might be a real exit from this place. However, just as he reaches the source, it suddenly vanishes. The demon informs him that it was merely an illusion and that the exit he had been hoping for does not exist anywhere in this place. The demon further explains that this palace is not actually a demon lair at all, yet It expresses appreciation for how quickly the boy was able to spot the flaws in its attacks. The demon is finally revealed as the Purgatory Rakshasa and comments to Chen that he is indeed the one who can bring hope. As Chen carefully studies the demon's body, he realizes with a start that he has seen this exact appearance before on the demon lord Lan Yu. Our hero flashes back to the battle where everything finally came to an end, the last fight he fought before the regression. His opponent was no ordinary demon. During their clash, the creature first transformed into a dragon, then repeatedly switched its class into other terrifying high-tier monsters. It wielded scorching magma, poisonous vines, and lightning even more powerful than his own. Out of all those transformations, however, the one that truly caught his attention was the form that looked exactly like the demon standing before him now. A chilling realization strikes him. Every single transformation must have been part of Demon King Lan Yu's ability. Since that power now rests within him, the demon he sees right now is simply the power of gluttony absorbed inside his body. His sharp deduction genuinely impresses the demon. It calmly states that he truly is worthy of inheriting the power that exists within this entire dimension. Chen frowns, confused about what it means by everything in the dimension. Suddenly, a golden void key materializes in the demon's hand. It is the only way for someone to enter and leave the giant tower behind him. The demon explains that Demon King Lan Yu had devoured an uncountable number of powerful monsters. Guarding the tower that seals the most indomitable among them was its sacred duty. Yet now, it chooses to hand that very key over to him. Rakshasa wishes for him to devour those demons, grow stronger, and carry out the mission in its place. Perplexed, Chen asks why a demon would ever help a human. In response, the creature reveals that even within the demon realm, there are righteous beings and vile ones. One such monster slaughtered its entire clan purely for amusement, like a twisted massacre done for entertainment. Since that day, it has waited for a chance to take revenge on that evil bastard. Now, it believes it has found the one capable of granting that wish. It tells our boy that someone was right about him being their best hope for vengeance. Chen immediately asks who that person is. The demon only replies that all answers await inside the tower, speaking in a cryptic tone like some ancient sage. With its final words, it offers up all of its remaining energy to him. In return, the demon tells him that he must rise to become the strongest human on the planet. It will not be an easy task to devour every single one of those ferocious beasts lurking inside the tower. Against him, each of those cunning creatures will still pose a tremendous challenge to overcome. The demon delivers its final warning, declaring that only someone with an unyielding hunger to grow stronger deserves Purgatory Rakshasa's power. That is the motivation required to slaughter every demon king in existence. With that, its body compresses into a blazing sphere of energy for Chen to consume. He immediately shoots up 8 levels and acquires 2 of Rakshasa's swords. Without hesitation, he accepts the mission, vowing to carry out the fallen Star Warrior's final wish as promised. On top of the stat boosts, he unlocks the ability to absorb power from dead humans and demons alike, along with gravity manipulation. By morning, he slowly opens his eyes, waking up inside the dorm like any other normal day. He suddenly bolts upright when a loud voice echoes through the room. His roommates are already preparing and tell him to get moving too if he plans on reaching school in time. When he notices his body is completely unharmed and intact, he questions whether everything he experienced was only some bizarre dream. However, his updated stats confirm that is not the case at all. Everything he witnessed had carried over. After jumping from level 2 to level 10 overnight, he cannot help but wonder what rank he now holds. Just then, his roommate begins poking fun at him. He brings up how a certain someone was shamelessly praising him the other night, going on about how cool and insanely powerful he supposedly became. Ma Long quietly peeks from across the room, pretending like he had nothing to do with it. Either way, his roommate challenges him to prove it during the ranking assessment that will decide who is strong enough to keep the title of Dorm King. While heading to school, the self-proclaimed Dorm King proudly educates his so-called subjects that every rank is divided into 3 separate tiers. So even though they are all technically E-rank peasants, at least he places above the other bottom-tier E-losers as a proud mid-E-ranker. He struts around, acting superior because the gap between each tier is supposedly enormous. Fired up and overly confident, the clown claims he feels so ridiculously strong that he must have advanced a tier since their previous assessment. Annoyed as hell, Ma Long tells our boy to stop playing around and go all out to at least secure a D rank today. That way, the dorm king might finally shut his non-stop mouth for once. Soon enough, the boys arrive at school, where everyone is anxiously gathered for the ranking ceremony. The bullies stroll in like they own the entire campus, trashing anyone who dares to look at them the wrong way. Even the dorm king's smug grin disappears, like his father did the second he sees them. But just like him, the bullies nearly lose their nerve too. Out of nowhere, they start bowing respectfully to Big Brother Chen without hesitation. His roommates slowly begin to realize that maybe everything Ma Long said was not complete nonsense after all. Our boy ignores the clowns and simply minds his own business. Then a new challenger decides to step in front of him. The guy who acts as the school police, student council officer John, offers him a very polite warning. Apparently, the student council president personally sent him to discipline the idiot who dared raise a hand against his precious little brother. All of Chen's friends immediately scatter and hide. They are terrified of Jen, the enforcer who handles all the dirty work for the student council president. His roommates cannot figure out why the D-rank monster is suddenly targeting their boy like this. He steps right into Chen's personal space. The president's loyal lapdog boasts that his keen sense of smell allows him to judge exactly how strong someone is. And right now, all he can smell from Chen is a pathetic, weak loser. Amused by the insult, our boy flames him back without hesitation. Gene completely loses his mind. The moment he gets called a dog, and before a fight actually breaks out, the overgrown pup's master orders him to stand down before they cause a public scene. After doing some digging, he discovered that his little brother was the one who started the fight first. Getting beaten up was simply the consequence of punching someone clearly above his weight. With that said, the president shoots him a glare sharper than daggers, but our hero is not the slightest bit intimidated. At that moment, a professor announces that the rank assessment ceremony is officially beginning and requests all present students to step forward when their name is called. Hearing that, the president tells his dog they are leaving. He assumes this was a one-time incident and that Chen will not cause any more problems after their intimidation. Watching from high above, a man curiously asks the vice president why she is observing the ranking ceremony today. He wonders if a rookie has caught her interest. The lady smiles faintly and says, "This year will be quite interesting." Soon, Shang Zhou's name is announced. The dorm king feels slightly nervous as he steps through the door. The atmosphere completely shifts on the other side. The assessment is conducted one by one inside a special demon lair. Inside, a demon heart connected to wires measures an awakener's rank and potential by absorbing their energy. When the awakener unleashes their strongest power, the signal transfers back to Earth where their assessment result is revealed. The dorm king's rank turns out to be the same as last time. However, the professor looks confused when his potential takes longer than expected to appear. Ma Long stares intensely at the shifting number. After much suspense, Shangzhou's maximum potential is revealed as only C. The king walks out looking dejected, realizing all the progress he thought he had made was just in his head. His roommates try to comfort him, saying they are all in the same boat anyway, stuck in E rank with the potential to reach C rank at best. A few moments later, the president's lapdog walks out proudly. He is still lower D rank, but he has the potential to reach A. Chen's roommates begin to lose all hope since they have already seen nearly 10 students reach D rank. Even the professors are stunned that so many students have reached grade D already. It is rare for students who cannot gain real combat experience to break out of E rank. Excited, they call up the next student, the president who carries everyone's expectations on his shoulders. All eyes turn toward Gong Ting, the student who is already a guildmaster, as he walks onto the stage. Our boy stays calm, however, and patiently waits for the results. Everyone in the academy knows that Gong Ting was only lower D rank 2 years ago. The historical record for the highest grade in the academy was middle D rank, so people wonder if the president will finally raise the bar. Inside the demon lair, the demon heart's eyes slowly open in his presence. The president cannot unleash everything he has. However, he carries a burning desire to go out with a bang at the graduation ceremony and carve his name into the history books as number one. When the professors see his potential grade glowing gold, they blink in disbelief. Their suspicions are confirmed as Gong Ting's high D rank completely blows them away. Not only that, excitement erupts through the crowd at the sight of the first S-rank potential in academy history. The president's lackeys praise their boss nonstop. Even Chen's roommates burn with jealousy while watching a legend being born right before their eyes. The professors quietly discuss among themselves that the news must be sent to the administration immediately. They need to treat their precious S-rank candidate with the utmost care and make sure he does not leave the country. On top of that, he is the youngest student involved with a guild in the academy. Their school's name is practically guaranteed to dominate the headlines. Observing from above, Principal Yuan Long realizes that Vice President Ling Yu already knew about his potential. That is exactly why she came personally to watch the ceremony. However, she spices things up by saying he was not the only one she came to observe today. Besides the flashy president, there is another student she finds far more intriguing. Right on cue, that very student is the next one to be called onto the stage. Jean comes up with a bright idea and decides to taunt the mysterious urban legend. He urges him not to turn out as another E-rank trash just like his roommates. He says they will become a laughingstock if that happens, and it should count as a disgrace for them to even appear at such a prestigious event in the first place. Long backs up his friend and boldly claims that he will knock everybody's socks off. The crowd stares in pure anticipation as Chen finally enters the demon lair. The demon heart instantly senses intense pressure as Chen approaches. Our hero recalls that the best way for an awakener to secure a solid future is to join a high-ranking guild. He knows that the only path to that goal lies in a strong performance during the graduation combat assessment, where candidates must choose members of their liking to form a squad of 10 people. The squad that takes first place receives direct recruitment into the nation's top-tier Imperial Guild. So the purpose of this test stands very clear to everyone watching. Jean begins recruiting and introduces another low-tier D rank to his boss, while proudly claiming that their party now stands fully complete. He explains that they already have all the D ranks along with the president's brother on their team, so there is no possible way for them to lose first place. Chen understands that strong students will eventually gather to form the strongest party, while the weakest will also group together in the same way. This creates a brutal environment of survival of the fittest, where weak links get cast out and eliminated without hesitation. After some time passes, Long starts to feel anxious about why the screen shows no change at all, and the crowd quickly assumes that Chen must be so weak that the system fails to even register his presence properly. Jen then convinces Ting that the remaining students are nothing but trash, so they should just leave without wasting more time here. However, right as they prepare to leave, the screen suddenly flickers and reveals a high D-rank label, which sends the entire crowd into chaos while shock spreads across their faces. The president, along with the student council, also reacts in disbelief at this unexpected result. Yet the system soon detects a strange deviation within the results. It turns out that Chen used the system to calibrate what his level 10 base stats and his unchanged physical form actually translate into during the evaluation. After seeing a D rank, he switches his class to the Infernal Death King, which stands as his weakest devoured class so far. The rank instantly shifts from high D to mid C, completely blowing the crowd away, while the council struggles to believe that the machine is still functioning properly at all. Even the scientists begin to question the situation as they wonder why the results keep changing. Soon they start to suspect that the machine might truly be malfunctioning beyond repair. At that exact moment, an instability appears within the demon heart, and the results deviate once again, in a strange manner. Chen notices this and decides to switch to a stronger class, so he becomes the Purgatory Rakshasa. The demon heart becomes anxious as a violent storm rises outside the demon lair. Jian shouts in confusion, while Long treats it like a celestial omen, signaling that history is rewriting itself, since their dorm has produced a divine monster. In the very next moment, the potential flickers to S rank, which leaves both the scientists and President Ting completely stunned at what they just witnessed. However, the system suddenly displays a warning that the user's potential exceeds its maximum load and remains undetectable under current limits. Jean's brain almost shuts down like a blue screen of death as his soul nearly leaves his body from pure shock. As the system begins to break apart under overwhelming pressure, the scientists rush forward in panic to ensure that no harm reaches the student at any cost. But when they finally arrive, they freeze in disbelief as they find a shriveled raisin sitting where the demon heart once existed, since it had burned out completely from extreme overuse. It becomes clear that Chin may have scared it a little too much, yet he still ends up devouring it and gains the ability to view anyone's rank while also receiving warnings about potential dangers nearby. He walks out of the demon lair and feels pleasantly surprised as every person's rank appears before him. But then he quickly notices that the president has hidden his true potential as well and turns out to be nothing more than a mediocre C rank at best. The scientists walk out in an awkward manner and inform everyone that the demon heart has suffered a heart attack due to extreme strain, so they must suspend further testing for now. They label Chin's stats as a probable error and announce that a full report will go to the higher authorities for review. The remaining students receive instructions to return the next day for their assessment since a new device will be arranged for testing by then, without further issues. On the way back, Chin's roommates start to hype him up and treat him like an absolute giga-chad after what he just pulled off in front of everyone. Jing clearly fails to handle the jealousy and calls Chin a fraud, while demanding compensation for breaking the machine and wasting the council's time like a sore loser. Just as Chin reaches his patience limit and prepares to fry the guy on the spot, Ting steps in and calls Jian out immediately. The president warns him not to disrespect their teammate, which shocks Jian on the spot. And then Ting extends his hand as he invites the newly revealed powerhouse to join his team. All the while, he confidently promises that together they will achieve the highest score in history without question. Gene starts to have a full mental breakdown in the background because he knows that someone will need to get kicked out of the team to make space for Chin, and this situation will definitely stir trouble with the brothers. According to him, joining Ting's team almost guarantees a first-place finish with zero doubt, so he begins to question what makes Chin so special when other people couldn't even bribe their way into this lineup despite all their efforts. He forces himself to swallow his pride and reluctantly welcomes Chin to the team as he places a hand on the hero's shoulder with visible hesitation. Chin immediately slaps his hand away and firmly states that he has zero interest in joining them at all. This response makes Jin sweat bullets, while Ting simply watches the entire exchange in silence, without any reaction. Jin snaps at Chen and claims that he has no idea what he is doing, since their team already ranks #1 in the whole school without competition. Chen turns his back and walks off as he says it has nothing to do with them and calls their entire group too noisy to deal with for even a moment. He tells them not to bother him again. Jian starts to boil with anger and pure contempt right after that humiliating dismissal. The entire school quickly begins to gossip about Chin's refusal, and most assume that he plans to take first place all for himself after that mid-tier C rank reveal. The whole school now gets a perfect show to enjoy as drama starts to unfold in real time. Meanwhile, Chin's roommates fully enjoy the look of complete humiliation that spreads across Jian and Ting's faces. After that public rejection without mercy, the president calmly tells Jian not to worry if Chen has his own plans, while he keeps his composure intact. At the same time, the principal, who had been watching the whole ordeal, lets out a deep sigh of disappointment since the boys refused to team up as he originally hoped. He wanted them to cooperate and break a new school record together. But Ling insists that the situation becomes far more interesting this way instead. She explains that Ting grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, so this kind of refusal will register as a direct declaration of war in his mind, without any doubt. She reminds the principal that their president is not someone easy to deal with under any circumstances once his pride takes a hit like this. Jean continues to complain and claims that Chen has an inflated ego just because of a test error that showed a C rank, but Ting hints at the possibility that the result might not be wrong at all. He admits that even if the chances seem almost non-existent, he still cannot allow anyone to take his first place away from him under any condition. Jin then recalls that Chen likely stands as a normal student with no real combat experience at all, while the council members are elitists who have secretly trained inside a demon lair for a long time to reach their current level. He suggests that he should personally go and teach Chen a lesson for his insolence. But Ting cuts off that line of thought and asks if their president really seems petty enough to act like that. Gene immediately realizes his mistake and offers an apology while Ting cancels their karaoke plan and tells Jian to handle everything on his own without further guidance. He adds in a cold tone that whatever Jian chooses to do has nothing to do with him, and Jian understands the message right away without needing further explanation. About 10 minutes later, an informant approaches Jian and reports that Chen has already left the school after mentioning that he needed to go home for a while. He also explains that Chen walked out without even stopping to eat, which makes the situation even more convenient. Jean sees this as a stroke of heavenly fate and grows thrilled at the opportunity to handle him mercilessly on unknown territory where no one can step in. As Chen crosses the street, he remembers that in his past life, a top-tier guild suffered a catastrophe while attempting to raid a demon nest located inside St. High Country's borders. Deep within that nest, they came across an unknown creature called Wrath, which instantly wiped out the entire elite squad without any chance to fight back. The beast then broke free into the human realm and unleashed widespread devastation across the lands. Even though that recollection is still fragmented, Chen remains resolute and devises a strategy to find that exact demon nest in this lifetime. To kickstart this plan, Chen requires a substantial sum of money. Without wasting any time, he makes his way toward the Mythil Monster Exchange Center. He remembers that this exchange center, under the Mythil Guild, would later grow into the biggest material trading hub across the entire nation in the years ahead. In this world, an awakener's power is evaluated by the quality of their gear and weapons, and the exchange serves as a vital marketplace for purchasing and selling such equipment. Yet for Chen, this location is merely a fast and simple way to generate some quick cash before advancing toward his larger objectives. So he strides straight inside and offers a few fangs to the broker, who inspects them with sharp focus and obvious doubt. He questions how a mere student like him could possibly acquire such an item. Chen responds coolly that they came from a monster he had slain earlier. The broker reacts with astonishment and says he has never encountered anything like it, but his assistant intervenes and clarifies that the fangs belong to E-class monsters known as Beast Sangan. She mentions that according to records, these fangs can be used to craft an E-grade cloud-type scepter or ground into powder for multiple applications. The arrogant broker interrupts her and flings the fang back onto the table, declaring that an E-grade item holds almost no real value. He then begins boasting that their exchange runs on a VIP system and only serves awakeners with proper identity and high social standing. He claims he only deals with D-grade items and higher, using that as his reason for completely ignoring such a low-tier E-grade piece. In his head, he grumbles about the shortage of premium clients recently and sees no advantage in wasting time on a low-level person since it won't boost his promotion prospects. He views the whole encounter as bothersome and immediately shifts the duty to his assistant Lee. As he moves away, she courteously gives Chen an envelope filled with cash and inquires if he needs assistance with anything beyond this deal. Chen counts the 18 grand and concludes it will comfortably solve his rent issues for the time being. He then pulls out the radiant greatsword he acquired from the Purgatory Rakshasa, which instantly seizes her complete focus. Though she has never witnessed anything similar, she guesses it must be at least B grade, or possibly even A grade. The broker returns with raised eyebrows and rejects her assessment as ridiculous fantasy because A-grade items normally go for around 1 million. He insists that after working there for many years, he has never seen anything remotely close to an A-grade item in person. Right then, the shop owner enters and calmly declares that the item shown here is neither A-grade nor B-grade at all. The broker flatters his boss for his keen insight and insists he had already guessed that a simple student could never own something so valuable. However, the owner clarifies that the weapon unmistakably comes from the Purgatory realm and discloses that it is in fact an S-grade item. Both the broker and the assistant nearly short-circuit upon hearing this bombshell, their faces freezing in utter shock. The owner instantly takes Chen's hands and warmly receives him as a distinguished guest with the highest respect. He then invites Chen to follow him into the VIP lounge and urges him to ask for anything he wants without holding back. Meanwhile, Chen feels pleased as he sees that the owner, Ching Zhe, has shown himself exactly as anticipated. Once they settle into the VIP room, the guild boss asks him how much he wants for the weapon. Our boy instantly replies with 1 million, which stuns the green-haired man. The boss informs him that it could easily bring in tens of millions given its immense worth. Yet Chen tells him he only wants to use the great sword as security for a $1 million loan lasting 1 month. This leaves the man even more stunned as he realizes how incredibly sharp our boy is and begins wondering who he truly is. Chen adds that he will repay the principal in 30 days and cover the interest the following month. Before responding, the guild boss asks the girl to leave the room so the adults can talk business privately. Once she's gone, the man reveals that he knows Chen attends the National Awakener University and that the seniors are nearing graduation. He continues by saying he is aware the graduation test is scheduled in 30 days with a reward of 1 million. The guy then straight up asks our hero if he is fully confident he will crush that test. The guild boss then switches on his detective instincts and deduces that Chen desperately needs money and wouldn't be here unless it was his only choice. In the end, he announces that he will lend him 1.5 million right away, with 0 interest. Extending his hand, he smiles and says, "This marks the beginning of a wonderful friendship." Chen is left stunned by the gesture, and the man further assures him that not a single word will leave this room. He simply requests that in exchange, our boy should visit this guild whenever he has something else to trade. Chen thinks to himself that this man managed to piece everything together so effortlessly, yet never attempted to cheat him. He now sees why the guild boss rises to become a major figure in the future. Our boy then shakes his hand while reflecting that he will need powerful allies if he ever hopes to defeat the Demon Lord. A short while later, the contract is finalized and the money is transferred straight into his account. The guild boss then asks if he needs to borrow a weapon for the upcoming tournament since he just handed his over. Although he doesn't possess any S-rank equipment, he still has plenty of top-quality A-rank gear available. Chen tells him there's no need to worry, then casually summons the other greatsword he acquired earlier, leaving the guild members utterly astonished. With that, our boy heads out, while the guild boss immediately promotes the pink-haired girl to supervisor for bringing in such a valuable client. Before Chen leaves the building, he realizes he forgot to purchase something and turns back toward the counter. A few hours later, he stands at a bus stop. He remembers how in his past life he fought desperately to rise to the top, only to be treated like garbage by everyone. He worked endless hours just to survive, and the 2 siblings lived almost like beggars to get through each month. Yoon had managed to secure admission into our ideal university back then, but she abandoned it, convincing herself the campus was too distant from her beloved brother. In truth, she was terrified of adding more financial pressure onto him. Back in the present, he wonders why she still hasn't appeared and begins scanning the area. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him, calling him an idiot for looking near the entrance instead of the exit. She drags a massive suitcase behind her and tells him they're broke again because the rent swallowed all their money. However, our boy remains frozen in complete shock. It has been 7 long years since he last saw her. She asks him to help with her luggage. When he doesn't respond, she waves her hand in front of his face, trying to pull him back to reality. At that moment, Chen suddenly lunges forward and wraps her in a tight embrace, startling her. After a few uncomfortable seconds, she uses her signature poking technique to escape his grip while scolding him for almost smothering her. She says he has been behaving quite suspiciously lately and asks if his crush has finally turned him down, but he dismisses it. The two then begin walking as she keeps chattering about her exams. Even so, Chen feels incredibly happy just listening to her, silently promising himself that he will never allow anything bad to happen to her in this life. Meanwhile, in a narrow alleyway, several thugs loiter while waiting. After confirming that their target will pass through here, Jian orders his underlings to stay hidden until the boy appears, then strike together. A wild grin spreads across his face as he tells himself he will definitely make the guy pay for what he did. One of the thugs asks whether they might get into serious trouble if things get out of hand. The cloud assassin replies that he originally just wanted to teach that kid a small lesson, but the recent incident has truly enraged him. Recalling how Chen humiliated him, he tells the worthless lackeys to leave some part for him and vows that he will teach our hero a memory he won't ever forget. Jean starts bragging about how he is the greatest cloud assassin around and begins drooling while picturing the expression on his target's face. Back to our hero, Yoon points out again that he has been acting very oddly and wonders if it's because of the upcoming exams. She brushes it aside and says that a weakling like him shouldn't overthink it. The sister reminds him that he always told her to keep pushing forward no matter what and leave the rest to destiny. Trying to cheer him up, she begins singing a motivational tune as they enter the alley. Chen feels pleasantly surprised that she noticed his change so quickly, but realizes she has no idea that he has awakened his powers and become wealthy. Hearing his confident assurance that he's fine, she wonders if it's just his male ego talking. Yoon shakes her head, thinking that her brother is finally growing into a man. Meanwhile, in the distance, one of the thugs informs Jian that their target is with a girl. This makes the guy extremely thrilled, since the alley has no cameras and no one can catch them. However, our boy instantly detects the malicious intent and recognizes it is the same trash from the student council. He takes out some cheap off-brand AirPods. He slips them into his sister's ears and tells her to listen to a song he recently started liking. This catches her completely off guard since he never listens to music, but she decides to play along to understand him better. He then turns around and glares sharply at the scumbags who are slowly creeping closer. While the music continues playing in the background, the fight finally erupts as the thugs charge forward. Chen instantly shifts into his lightning class and remembers that it has been 7 years since he lost his only family, and only now has he reunited with her. Burning with rage, he wonders where these guys pulled their courage from and shoots forward like a streak of lightning. Our hero slams his leg into the first thug, launching him backward while the rest begin sweating profusely. He then charges his fist and serves up powerful punches to 3 of them in quick succession before finishing the 4th with a savage knee strike. One bold trash tries to attack, but Chen simply grabs his arm and snaps it like dry pasta. The guy howls in agony, only to get a heavy fist smashed straight into his nose. Watching his comrades get tossed around like rag dolls, Jian freezes in disbelief and wonders how the hell their target became so powerful. Chen doesn't stop there and keeps throwing heavy blows left and right as he advances straight toward the cloud assassin. When he finally reaches him, Jian desperately tries to convince himself that he is the strongest assassin alive and that he cannot possibly lose. Being the generous soul he is, our hero snaps him back to reality with a crushing punch that sends him flying. However, he doesn't stop there. He rushes in and unleashes a relentless barrage of punches that knocks several teeth flying out. The cloud assassin tumbles across the ground like a tumbleweed on steroids before slamming hard into a wall. He struggles to open his eyes, only to find the devil himself staring down at him. Our hero looks down at Jian, now completely stripped of his pride, and reminds him that he had already warned this piece of garbage to stay away. Staring deep into his soul, he asks the brainless scum if he can't even understand simple words. The guy, beaten beyond recognition, can't even feel his legs, and half the bones in his body are shattered. Realizing he had messed with the wrong person, he barely manages to mumble out an apology. Chen silences him by grabbing his collar and pressing a dagger right against his face. Mr. Top Assassin sees it clearly in those eyes. There is zero hesitation to kill. He doesn't carry the aura of a normal student at all. Jean can't help but wonder what kind of hell could transform a man into a monster like Chen. With ice-cold malice, he warns the guy to remember his words carefully if he doesn't want a repeat of this nightmare. He will not hesitate to tear them all apart the next time they try anything foolish. That is his final warning. Then he adds one more thing for emphasis. If they so much as come within a mile of his sister, he will gladly wipe out everyone close to them one by one. After that, he drops the dagger and walks back to Yoon's side, before the song even ends. By the time it finishes, his sister is overwhelmed with emotion. She is moved to tears by the sad and painfully lonely lyrics. She cries, confused about what her brother must have gone through to change him so drastically over the years. She even wonders if her support back then wasn't enough. Determined, she spins around to scold him properly, but she freezes mid-sentence the moment she notices the gift in his hand. The shiny gold-plated pen she had always dreamed of owning sits right there before her eyes. Yoon's cheeks flush bright red with excitement. She can barely believe her brother got her the latest holographic magic pen, one that costs more than their entire monthly rent. Her cute reaction melts his heart. It's clear from her expression that she doesn't want to give it back, even though returning it would be the responsible choice, given their rent situation. Hiding his clenched fist behind his back, Chin silently vows to protect his sister's smile this time around and make sure she gets into her dream school. Back at home, his sister happily spends hours creating holographic drawings in the air. Big Brother quietly savors her homemade ramen and tells her he's glad she likes the gift. Even so, she still worries about him spending so much on her when they don't even have next month's rent sorted. He gives her a proud smile and reveals that their rent is already paid for an entire year. Big Brother boasts that his recent small business venture with a friend has been going really well, but Yoon is sharp and shoots him a highly suspicious look. She clearly isn't buying his convenient business excuse. Still, she doesn't press him any further. She can't even remember the last time her big brother laughed so freely like this. She gently pats him on the shoulder and makes one simple request. Whatever he's doing behind the scenes, he must make sure he doesn't exhaust himself. Meanwhile, at a quiet aquarium, the president, Ting, shares some shocking news with his cousin. The best doctors in the city have confirmed that Mr. Top Assassin is critically injured, with almost no chance of full recovery. More than half the bones in his body are shattered beyond proper healing. Him fighting Chen was already unexpected for the president, but the horrifying state of his body afterward is even more alarming. His cousin reacts with cold indifference. She is only disappointed that the number of strong graduate students joining his team has now decreased. But the president is equally ruthless, replying that he will actually perform better without that useless NPC dragging him down. Then their uncle and the academy's director of employment speaks up. Gongwen calmly presents his report on our hero's recent actions. His thorough investigation into the chaos from the ranking ceremony has finally concluded. There is no doubt about the results. Chin truly ranks higher than the student council president. That revelation catches the former top student completely off guard. The man then gives him serious advice, saying his father personally asked the vice chairman of the alliance to evaluate his combat exam performance, so he must make sure he stands out as the brightest among everyone. In case he somehow fails to do so, the director suggests an alternative plan. The green-haired girl, who is his uncle's favorite niece, will help his team secure first place overall. But the council president flatly refuses the offer without hesitation. He claims he didn't even show his real strength during the assessment. President Ting is fully confident in his overwhelming superiority and assures them he will crush the entire academy by himself. Back at the academy dorms, our boy washes up after completing his daily 100-meter run while carrying weights in his backpack. He is fully focused on one goal, winning the $1 million prize in the upcoming graduation exam. It is his only real chance to fulfill his deal with the Myethil Guild's Cheng Zhe and build a strong, mutually beneficial trading relationship with them. With only a few weeks remaining until the exam, he lies down in bed, not to rest, but to keep training even while sleeping. He enters his demon lair, where the demon king Lanu's massive void tower looms before him. He climbs the long staircase leading to the entrance without any hesitation. His first evaluation with the Gravehound King's class reached a decent mid-S rank. On the other hand, the overwhelming power of his Abyssal Fiend class completely overloaded the system. Even the Demon Heart itself couldn't properly measure its true potential. The only way to test his remaining classes becomes obvious to him. He unlocks the Void Tower and decides to evaluate their raw strength directly on the battlefield. He steps inside, curious about what kind of brutal trial the tower will present. What he sees inside widens his eyes in shock. He finds himself transported to a bizarre dimension where he stands atop a giant white planet floating in space. The moment he takes his very first step, he immediately drops to one knee, barely keeping his body upright. In the fallen star wastelands, gravity is 10 times stronger than Earth's, and Chen feels the crushing pressure deep in his bones. Behind him, the tower entrance completely disappears. He already understands this means he must defeat the boss to reopen the exit. Before any deadly beasts can ambush him, he needs to adapt and overcome the environment quickly. However, a phantom lion stalking nearby for prey doesn't seem willing to give him that luxury. Left with no other choice, Chen instantly switches to his lightning class. The lion leaps straight at him, yet he barely dodges and delivers a precise stab into its shoulder. The beast roars in rage, but the strike proves ineffective since it missed any vital points. He quickly realizes his attacks are just as slow and imprecise as his current ability to even move properly. The phantom lion easily pins him to the ground and tries to bite into him like a taco, showing how well these monsters have adapted to the extreme gravity. He lets the lion chew on his arm for a moment, then swiftly switches his class to the Abyssal Fiend. The change instantly grants him a different kind of stat boost. In exchange for some speed, he gains massive strength and stamina, which are essential for close combat situations like this. His class change slams the aggressive beast down and immediately flips the battle in his favor. Rakshasa's ability to manipulate gravity proves extremely valuable. On a planet with 10 Gs, a 3 times multiplier hits with devastating force. In that instant, the lion roars furiously, but Chen shows no mercy, crushing the phantom lion into the planet's surface. Afterwards, he collapses onto the ground to catch his breath. Gluttony surprises him with a well-deserved level-up notification. It is then explained that every class receives a star rating. The number of stars shows how much the stats change when switching to that class. Purgatory, Rakshasa has the most stars among all his available classes. Despite that advantage, he had just fought for his life against a B-rank phantom lion in this form. It becomes clear he still has a long way to go before reaching its full potential SSS rank. Next, he feels annoyed to see that Gluttony doesn't even give him the option to devour the creature. This monster was also clearly not the floor boss, since an exit should have appeared once he defeated the actual boss. Just then, a massive door opens behind him. Dozens of glowing eyes peer out from the darkness. Reality hits him like a truck. All the effort it took to defeat a single phantom lion feels like nothing compared to what awaits next. Countless B-rank monsters surge out of the door, clawing and tearing at him from every direction. Only now does he truly grasp what Rakshasa had warned him about. The demon had said there were merciless beasts inside the tower, and that his path would be filled with endless pain and suffering. But the demon had also told him to endure it all, to adapt, and to grow stronger through it. Soon, Chen jolts awake from his sleep, feeling as if he had just survived the most horrific nightmare of his life. Everyone else in the room is still sound asleep, completely unaware that he had just endured the agony of having his flesh ripped apart by monsters. Our hero finally understands that the Purgatory's Void Tower is not some quick path to instant leveling. He is only standing at the very beginning of a long, brutal, and agonizing journey. Weeks fly by until it is finally time for the Academy's graduation exam. Many important VIPs have gathered to watch the promising new batch of students. New minimum requirements are also announced for team composition, stating that each party must include at least one high E-rank student. The moment to form teams arrives, and it is declared that all students can now view each other's ranks. This lets everyone quickly decide who to recruit for their groups. The students are arranged in order of rank from highest to lowest, but Mom immediately notices something strange. Chen himself is confused to see his name placed all the way at the very bottom. All eyes turn toward him as the others wonder how a near-death E-rank awakener could possibly be ranked at the lowest position in the class. The jealous students immediately start bad-mouthing him, convinced that his previous high rank was just a glitch in the assessment. Still, even they cannot deny that his strength is genuine, and having him on their team would definitely improve their scores. Council President Ting stays silent as whispers spread about the fool who must now be regretting his decision to reject the president's generous offer. The mastermind behind this scheme is his own uncle, Gong Xuan. The bastard had assumed no one would invite our boy to their party after seeing him ranked at the absolute bottom. His malicious plan was straightforward. If Chen cannot even qualify, he won't get any chance to compete against the president's party. Going back to just a few hours earlier, the entire classroom had practically begged President Ting to let them join his team. They tried their hardest to flatter him, but Chung shut them down and said they could only add one more person. Returning to the present, all the other students have formed their own teams, leaving only the weakest dorm behind. Long states that they tried asking everyone, but no one wants to join them. Since they only have 4 people right now, they cannot participate in the graduation test. He then complains that it is extremely suspicious how Chen's score was pushed to the lowest rank, making him unfit to even take part. Since the selection criteria require at least one high E rank, it feels like their group was deliberately targeted. The graduation test is the only opportunity for students to display their talent and get noticed by powerful guilds. In the final test, the number of participants decides how many monsters the group will face, so there is no benefit in having extra numbers. That is why no one wants anything to do with the weaklings, as it would only add an extra burden. To make matters worse, the 3 lowest ranked students all come from the same dorm, leaving them completely isolated. Just then, one of the students shouts over to Zhu and informs him that they're only short of a single member. The fellow attempts to manipulate him, claiming he surely doesn't intend to ruin his chances at the graduation test by sticking with his weak roommates. Chen understands that if this continues, there's a strong possibility they'll all be excluded and won't even get the chance to compete. However, the dorm leader firmly turns down their proposal and declares that he will never desert his roommates. This causes the other group to storm off in fury, yet he still warns them not to underestimate anyone. After scanning the student list, Long declares that almost everyone has already formed their teams. They only require one more person, but nobody is ready to join them. Meanwhile, our protagonist stares at the director and notices that the man shares the same surname as the student council president. Witnessing these shady tactics, Chen wonders if Gongguan truly sees him as such a major threat. Refusing to give up, he announces that he will definitely participate in the tournament and immediately activates his lightning power. Since the others are openly showing their hostility, he tells himself there's no reason to hold back anymore. Farming aura like a pro, he steps forward while the officials in charge are stunned by the abrupt display of strength. Even his own dorm mates begin to wonder what's happening. Our hero remembers that all Awakener academies follow a special tradition. To foster a competitive atmosphere, students are allowed to challenge anyone at any time. Even if it appears like showing off, this is a method to showcase one's power and earn recognition. In situations like this, most people would hesitate to fight at all. However, he knows the student council president won't back down, so as long as he defeats the blonde, everyone will be eager to team up with him. Right at that moment, a girl shows up at the entrance and calls out to our hero, asking if he still needs one more member for his team. She adds that she also wants to join this year's graduation test. The vice president mentions that she had already reached dank rank back in middle school, so she won't let him down. His dorm mates go wild, unable to comprehend how he managed to bring such a stunning girl onto his side. Chung and Ting both look utterly confused, wondering what's going on, while the director nearly chokes on his drink. The students begin whispering among themselves, puzzled why an exchange student would want to join the lowest-ranked team for this test. No one really knows her identity, but there's a rumor that she hails from the Saint Kingdom. The director almost loses his temper and tells her that exchange students are not allowed to take part in the school's graduation test. He continues by saying that Ling has never taken any ranked examinations here, nor has she ever proven her rank, which completely violates the rules. Suddenly, the principal appears and states that the director is right. Gong nearly suffers a heart attack upon seeing the elderly man. However, the principal then asks why Ling wants to participate in the test when she'll only be staying for a short while. Meanwhile, our boy is caught completely off guard and wonders how the principal managed to appear so suddenly, especially since he's a warrior class. The old man explains that it wouldn't be fair to the others if she joins the test, to which she simply plays along. Chen starts sweating as he realizes he can't even sense what rank these two possess. The director finally musters the courage to speak and backs the principal, stating that a school cannot operate without proper rules. The principal then changes his tone and explains that the main purpose of this academy is to offer a proper learning environment for awakeners so they can achieve great things in the future. Even though the graduation test is a long-standing tradition, it also stands as one of the most crucial moments in a student's life. He questions how the school could compensate a student if they were suddenly barred from participating due to last-minute rule changes. The director begins sweating profusely and wonders if he has finally been caught out. He starts questioning whether the principal is doing all this just for that kid. Realizing it isn't worth the hassle, he decides to back off. The man tells himself that since the strongest students have already formed one team, they should easily dominate the assessment anyway. He bows to the principal and apologizes, admitting that they had overlooked how this system might stop some students from getting their chance to grow. The director then declares that even lower-ranked teams and groups with fewer than 5 members can now participate in the tournament to ensure fairness. The 4 dorm mates finally complete their team and celebrate that they can now take part in the graduation test. Sitting in the back, the principal tells Ling that she seems far too interested in the kid. On one side of the test, the student council president leads the team made up of the strongest players. On the other side, Chen leads the 3 weakest players. This makes the old man extremely curious about which cave they will choose and how many points they will ultimately score. The official then announces that all captains can now select which devil cave to enter. Just then, his tablet sounds, startling him because one captain has already made a choice. Everyone starts freaking out when they see which cave Chen has picked. His dorm mates also panic and urgently tell him to change his decision, asking if he even understands what he just did. However, our boy stays silent as he continues staring at the screen. During the graduation test, groups of students enter a devil's cave and earn points by defeating monsters. Taking down monster lords and finishing with a short completion time each grant separate points, and the dungeon's difficulty level determines how many times the total score is multiplied. An F-rank dungeon can provide up to 75 points, while an E-rank dungeon can give a maximum of 100 points. The team with the highest score gets scouted by the Imperial Guild, and the top player receives a reward of 1 million yuan. Back in the selection room, the students discussed that the highest score in history was 90 points, achieved by the current leader of the Imperial Guild. Even clearing an E-rank dungeon normally requires at least 3 solid D-rank fighters on the team. This year, Ting's team might actually have a chance to break that record. The display then dings and informs everyone that someone has already chosen a devil's cave. The guy is shocked when he sees that our boy has selected a D-rank dungeon. No one has ever cleared a D-rank dungeon before, and everyone begins wondering if this was a mistake. Long asks our hero if he hit his head or something, while the dorm king completely loses his mind at what he is seeing. The nerd tries to talk some sense into Chen, but he reveals that he had thought long and hard about this decision. The system dings again as the student council president also selects the D-rank cave. Ting's teammates immediately accept their leader's choice, which qualifies them for the test. The classroom erupts in chaos at the announcement while the group tries to act indifferent. The blonde goth girl mocks our boy for trying to act tough and assumes he is just craving attention. The bald guy adds that his weak teammates would never go along with this and that the whole team would collapse. Long carefully studies Chen's face and realizes he is not bluffing at all. He wonders when his friend had become this strong and how much he had truly changed. After making up his mind, the nerd presses the confirm button and chooses to trust his friend. Yo also hits the green button since he feels he has nothing to lose anyway. The dorm king gets irritated that the other two made their decision before him and finally presses the button as well. With that, the system officially qualifies their team for the test. Looking at his dorm mates, Chen apologizes and reveals that he chose this dungeon because he wants to claim the top scorer position. He admits he is dragging them into his own dream, but reassures them that they will reach the summit together. Hearing his words, the president suddenly stands up and declares that the top spot belongs to him and him alone. Chen turns around and faces him directly. Ting releases a domineering aura and states that there can only be one strongest student in the entire school. Standing in the back, Ling is surprised, since this is the first time she has seen such intense emotions from him. The confrontation between the two of them is now completely out in the open. The principal feels proud that the students are so fearless, but Ling feels uneasy because our boy chose a D-rank cave, something even a C-rank awakener cannot clear alone. Even though a student can earn 150 points from a D-rank cave, the difficulty is far too extreme. On top of that, his teammates are not well suited for it either. The principal adds that they only have about a month left, and it will be impossible for them to improve enough in such a short period. Even so, he still hopes for the best. The story then jumps forward 2 weeks to the training grounds, where everyone is lying exhausted on the ground. Long asks why they are doing physical training while everyone else is using simulation training. Chen had put them through all kinds of intense exercises, leaving them extremely frustrated. Our hero explains that simulation training is practically useless. When someone enters a devil cave for the first time, their mind goes completely blank, and the only thing that can save them are their instincts. All this training is meant to build their physical strength so they can move faster and react more effectively. The best training would be to enter a real dungeon and gain actual experience. But commoners like them can only dream of that. Only the elites get such opportunities, and they were never ordinary people to begin with. Even then, those elites will do everything possible to ensure commoners never catch up so they can remain at the top. Those guys have access to resources that commoners spend their entire lives trying to obtain. The dorm king then asks what ordinary people are supposed to do in that situation. Chen reveals his plan and says that if they manage to enter the Imperial Guild, then they can change the entire system. The graduation test is the only real chance for anyone to surpass the elites. Since that is his dream, Chen swears he will do everything in his power to fulfill the promise he made, and that they will definitely win. With only half a month remaining until the graduation exam, our boy farms inside the Void Tower every single night. Defeating the Phantom Lions is no easy feat, but he refuses to give up, no matter how brutally they beat him down. 5 days before the exam, his roommates are training with everything they have. Our boy, however, is operating on a completely different level. His insane training schedule makes the Hashira training arc look like a light warm-up. With just 2 days remaining, his rival is clearly not slacking off on training either. But Chen is progressing at an even quicker pace, and now he can confidently stand his ground against an entire pack of lions under crushing, bone-breaking gravity. With blood running down his face, he has never looked more ready to claim victory. On the day of the exam, a small drone floats alongside the participants, serving as their guide. The boys walk in wearing matching outfits, looking sharp as hell. Once all participants put on their wristbands, the exam officially starts. Meanwhile, the academy principal warmly welcomes Gong Lin. The sharp-looking man is President Ting's father and the co-founder of the Imperial Guild. The students cannot stop staring when they see the Imperial Guild co-leader gawking at him like some rare animal in a zoo. Their curiosity reaches its peak when they see the guild co-founder and principal greeting a sleek white limo. A red-haired gentleman, Carl Cavendish, calmly steps out of the vehicle. The students lose their minds because anyone would instantly recognize the World Guild Alliance's vice chairman. Someone of his caliber would never normally show up in a place like this. Inside a VIP room, the director briefs the honored guests that a total of 23 teams are tackling F-rank demon layers. Some groups picked E-grade layers, while only 2 teams daringly chose D-rank layers. The Alliance Secretary Crid looks genuinely shocked that students would make such a reckless choice. Normally, even a proper D-rank party would prepare meticulously before attempting a D-grade layer. She questions whether the academy has truly thought about the students' safety. Hearing her concern, the director calmly explains that the students fully understand what they have signed up for. He had made it very clear that awakeners with 0 real combat experience usually struggle even against basic monsters. But the real danger lies in the layer's boss, which outclasses the weaker mobs by several levels. Many teams ultimately fail at the final stage, unable to defeat the boss monster. However, things are completely different inside E-rank layers. Even the most ordinary monsters there possess strength equal to an F-rank boss. That harsh reality is something students usually learn the hard way. The Alliance Secretary asks whether there is any proper protection once the situation turns dangerous. The director reassures her that the Academy deeply values its most promising talents. For student safety, a warrior from the Imperial Guild is stationed outside every lair, ready to intervene if anything goes wrong. On top of that, the wristbands each student wears can instantly teleport them out if they choose to surrender or if their life is truly in danger. Hearing this, the lady remains doubtful that the Academy has students capable enough to challenge a D-rank layer. She quietly wonders how long those teams can realistically last. The director, however, is confident that the little E-rank troublemakers will likely come running out in tears. Shifting to the D-rank dungeon filled with gigantic trees covered in thick ice, Chin's roommates are visibly terrified. Anyone would be after seeing those nightmare-inducing creatures that look like a bizarre mix of bats and monkeys. He quickly warns his party that those monsters dive at their targets in the blink of an eye, so they had better stay alert. Suddenly, a flock of the ghost monkey bats swoops down straight toward them. Shockingly, all the boys manage to awkwardly dodge the monster's lightning-fast strikes. While they are still excited that they avoided a D-rank creature's attack, something even crazier catches their attention. Our boy stands there calmly with a lightning sword in hand, surrounded by monster corpses already lying cold at his feet. He orders his team to focus on protecting themselves first, since they aren't strong enough yet, and to leave the rest to him. Just then, another ghost monkey bat charges at them with supersonic speed, but they barely manage to dodge it at the very last second. Shanzo suddenly realizes that our hero had actually been pushing them through that brutal training to sharpen their reflexes and explosive speed so they could survive against demons like these. Zuo grits his teeth, knowing he had been calling himself the Dorm King all this time, yet now His Majesty has no choice but to depend on his random roommate. In the meantime, Chin completely wipes out the remaining ghost monkeys. They dive toward him in waves, but the absolute Chad cuts them down before they can even register what hit them. The Dorm King mumbles to himself that he had always heard from Meilong that Chin was strong, but this is the first time he's witnessing it with his own eyes. To him, Chin doesn't look like a regular graduating student at all, but more like a battle-hardened veteran. As the slaughter continues, the Dorm King feels jealousy slowly creeping in over our hero's rising reputation. Out of nowhere, another monster appears behind the group, and he barely manages to block its attack. He grabs the creature's leg with his flaming hands and shouts at his teammates. He yells at them to stop acting like dead weight and pull themselves together. Chin isn't the only one whose graduation is at stake. The others stare at him, shocked by his sudden burst of determination. Inspired by the Dorm King's stubborn resolve, Shanzu casts his Flora chant, Vine Lock, and successfully binds the monkey bat. But to his shock, the creature breaks free almost instantly and even kicks Zhu in the process. Long casts his cloud chant, Frostbite Breeze, which only slows the monster down slightly. So, they decide to combine their attacks. Working together, they manage to restrain the creature for a brief moment and shout for the Dorm King to take the opportunity. He charges up a nuclear burst flame bullet and fires a direct hit, but it barely leaves more than a few scorched hairs. He launches several more flame bullets at the demon, but nothing seems strong enough to finish it. Shanzo and Long are already nearing their limits. The Dorm King decides he can no longer afford to hold back. He gathers all his strength and unleashes a converged burst flame bullet straight at the monster, triggering a massive explosion. When the smoke clears, only a charred skeleton remains. The drone announces that they have successfully eliminated a D-class ghost monkey bat. The three of them collapse onto the ground, utterly exhausted. They are thrilled that they managed to defeat a D-class monster on their own. Our boy walks over, slightly surprised, and they immediately ask if he saw them take it down. The monster leaves behind a single finger bone as loot, and Zuo casually claims that killing it was a piece of cake. Chen congratulates them anyway, and soon the drone declares that all mobs inside the Devil's Cave have been cleared. Watching the feed, Director Gong nearly loses his mind at the sight of those trash students with zero real combat experience defeating a D-level threat far beyond their weak abilities. The rest of the staff deliberately stays silent. Meanwhile, Vice Chairman Cavendish's assistant calmly praises Chen for his outstanding performance. He thinks to himself that Chen's aura reminds him very much of an old friend. The vice chairman mentions Chen's name and makes a note to remember him, which instantly alarms President Ting's father and the director. The director quickly shifts everyone's attention toward the student council team inside the other D-rank cave to divert focus away from Chen. He points out that the team has already reached the middle section, and the chairman's aide praises their smooth coordination, comparing it to the efficiency of a professional guild raid team. This reaction amuses Chairman Carl, and he remarks that the quality of graduates this year seems truly outstanding compared to previous years. Director Gong quietly mutters under his breath that the real battle has only just begun, and the true spectacle has yet to unfold for everyone present. Back inside the D-rank Toxic Vine Cavern, the president's party faces an assault from miasma poison mushroom monsters that surge out from every direction. A girl strums her guitar and releases an elegy of decay, while a star mage connects the mushrooms with his star attraction ability for a coordinated assault. He then calls for the captain, and the president charges forward with his sword, ready to end the attack in style. With a single swift slash, the mushroom monsters explode apart as the president unleashes his blazing sky sever with perfect precision. His teammates notice that the monsters in this school assessment are exactly the same as the ones they faced during their earlier training sessions. Because of this familiarity, the party handles the situation with almost no difficulty or pressure. They had already expected that the graduation assessment would be carefully arranged by the school authorities, since having strong backing ensures a much smoother future. With that belief, they begin celebrating early, feeling completely confident that they will claim the champion position this year without any real challenge. Returning to the final level of the Cloud Forest, the boys are shocked that they have actually survived this far and reached the Lair Lord. In the middle of a frozen wasteland, they see a ghost ape calmly enjoying its meal. The dorm king starts sweating immediately, just imagining the monster's overwhelming power. One slap from that thing would probably send him straight to the afterlife. As if on cue, the creature slowly locks eyes on the weakest target in the group. Malong freaks out, and that single scream is enough to provoke the beast. The giant ape launches itself toward them in a terrifying leap. The boys sprint away like their lives truly depend on it. Meanwhile, Chen charges forward without hesitation. He jumps straight into its massive face with a brutal kick, then chains together relentless strikes, juggling its body in the air. He finishes the fight by tearing it apart into chunks of minced monkey meat. That savage display leaves his party stunned in awe. Even so, Chen feels irritated that not even D-rank monsters are giving him any decent experience. The loot is disappointing as well. Out of nowhere, he hears his teammates shouting excitedly that they found giant monostones. It seems the giant ape had been hoarding them inside a hollow tree trunk. His friends practically drool over the unexpected treasure and eagerly reach out to grab the crystals. Chen shouts a warning, but he is a second too late. The instant their hands touch the monostones, a blinding flash erupts outward. In mere seconds, the entire area is sealed in ice. Shanzu, Long, and the drones are completely frozen solid by the Arctic blast. Back in the VIP room, the live broadcast suddenly cuts off. The sleazy director smirks as if he had been expecting this outcome. He knew high-rank monsters would set traps like this, and it was only a matter of time before Chen and his group of amateurs fell into one. Vice Chairman Cavendish looks displeased, clearly worried about the students' safety. The director fakes a look of regret over Chen's failure and claims there is no choice but to pull them out immediately. The principal disagrees. He argues that the students are not in immediate danger since the wristbands will activate automatically if their vital signs become abnormal, and none of them have shown any intention of giving up. He believes only the participants themselves should have the right to decide when to surrender. Back inside the dungeon, Malong shivers violently in the freezing cold. Out of everyone in the party, he is the only one who avoided being frozen solid, thanks to his class's naturally high resistance to ice. Just then, Long hears a bone-chilling laugh and spots a skeleton-like ice monster staring straight into his soul with merciless eyes. He recognizes it as the Lord of the Lair and recalls seeing it mentioned in the monster compendium before. He quickly remembers that it is a cloud mage capable of controlling both defensive and offensive abilities with ease.
While it manipulates ice and snow effortlessly, he also recalls that the creature before him, one that enjoys killing prey through prolonged torture, is known as the Bone King of Remains. He realizes the ice bomb was nothing more than a trap, so he turns around and runs without hesitation to save himself. Long understands very well that he cannot handle a C-class Lord monster like this alone under any circumstances. He rushes toward Chin in an attempt to free him, but an ice attack strikes his leg before he can reach his target in time. The Bone King laughs at his suffering while his bracelet sends out a warning signal, informing him that his leg has been completely pierced through. It offers him the option to abandon the exam, but Long refuses to give up and keeps trying to thaw Chen out before they lose their only advantage. At that moment, another ice shard shoots through his arm, stopping him from freeing Chen despite his desperate efforts. The Bone King savors the prolonged suffering as it watches him endure unbearable pain. His bracelet issues another warning about severe damage, detecting that his arm has also been pierced through and noting that his heart rate has risen to a dangerous level. It offers him the option to abandon the exam once again, but the kid slips into a flashback instead. He recalls that throughout his life, he had always run away from problems the moment hardship appeared, and that habit had left him behind every single time without exception. He remembers how people ignored him, bullied him, and laughed at him. Yet he and his friends had poured in too much effort to reach this point. Now he sees this moment as his final chance to change their fate. So he gathers the last of his strength, stands up, and finally manages to release Chen. He stands tall as the Bone King unleashes a relentless barrage of icicles straight toward him without any pause. Just as the attack is about to land, he lets out a loud roar, and Chen finally opens his eyes at that exact moment. The ice block shatters into pieces, and Chen rushes forward, carrying Long away from danger in one swift move. This sudden escape catches the Bone King off guard, while Long quickly realizes that Chen had managed to break free from the icy prison entirely on his own. The warrior thanks Long for helping him earlier and immediately asks about his condition with clear concern. Long replies that the bleeding has stopped for now, so he will survive without further issues, at least for the moment. He informs Chen that the monster they face is a cloud-type C-rank lord known as the Bone King, and warns that it is extremely dangerous in combat. He adds that they must avoid getting frozen again at any cost if they want even a slight chance to survive this encounter. They turn back and see the Bone King charging up a massive cluster of ice shards that rapidly forms into a gigantic glacier attack ready to launch. Long is stunned, realizing the monster is about to drop a giant ice nuke on them. In the next instant, the bomb crashes down and engulfs everything in blinding white. The monster begins to laugh, but the sound suddenly cuts off when it notices that both of them are still standing alive after that devastating strike. Chen switches his class to the Doomflame King and activates Cloud Warrior Frostbody, which grants him complete immunity to cold damage. The transformation also massively boosts all his resistance stats in cold environments, turning the battlefield into his advantage instead. The Bone King lets out a horrified shriek. Even Long feels utterly confused as he watches his friend, who was supposed to be a vault assassin, transform into a cloud-type warrior. He wonders whether Chen might be one of those rare prodigies who can awaken two different classes at once without any restrictions. Chen simply apologizes for misjudging the situation earlier and admits that he dragged his friends into a dangerous fight because of that error. So he switches class again into an Abyssal Fiend. He then draws his Purgatory Warrior Sword and faces the Bone King with full intent to end the battle right there. His best buddy's jaw drops wide open at the sight. Normally, all Awakeners are born with a single class they can specialize in, but among them exists an ultra-rare chance that someone possesses two classes simultaneously. These dual classers are so scarce you could count them on one hand. That kind of exclusivity makes them treasures every major guild desperately wants. However, that alone isn't what shocked him. He watched closely and realized that Chen is not using one, not two, but three completely different classes. On top of that, each of those classes belongs in a league of its own. In his Abyssal Fiend form, Chen's stats surge at an insane rate. His overwhelming physical strength launches him off the ground like a rocket. He rockets forward with explosive momentum toward the boss, whose smug grin vanishes under our boy's killing aura. In a single clean motion, he slices the bony bastard like a hot knife through butter, leveling up to 17 and obtaining a rare loot drop. Staring at the shattered skeleton's lifeless remains, his friend is still stunned that he just one-shot a C-rank lair lord. Our guy casually reminds him that the others are still frozen solid in ice. Malong suddenly has a strange moment and realizes he had completely forgotten about his other buddies during the entire boss fight. He sprints off to thaw the others out before they turn into forbidden ice cream. After he leaves, Chin notices that he has the option to devour the Frost Lich King. With no one around to witness it, he quickly absorbs the fallen Lair Lord and acquires the Cloud Mage class. Thanks to the boss's Arctic Nova that had blinded every drone in the area, no one will discover his hidden ability. Then, out of nowhere, he receives another surprise notification. His Lightning Assassin class levels up as well, allowing him to add a star to enhance one of his stats. The scene then shifts to the D-rank lair, Gloomvine Grotto, where the council president's team is getting completely overwhelmed. No matter how fiercely they attack, the D-rank boss proves far too durable for these amateur awakeners. The mage restraining the monster's movements with chains is already on the verge of collapse, and the lightning archer's arrows feel more like a light massage than real damage to the lair lord. They get tossed around like cheap action figures in a Happy Meal toy box. The humiliation makes them question whether all those combat simulations were completely useless. They have never faced anything even remotely close to this level of power. The mage quickly realizes that the president is their only real hope of defeating the boss. Far in the back line, the president strikes a dramatic pose. He charges up his ultimate skill while being buffed by the support mages. Once enough energy has gathered, he launches himself at the boss with his blazing sword. The blade pierces straight through its core and erupts into a storm of flames that melts the monster from the inside out. His teammates erupt in cheers, celebrating the rise of a legend whose name will supposedly go down in history. The drone announces that their team has cleared a D-grade layer in just over 30 minutes. Completely fired up, his party is convinced they have secured first place. No other team could possibly beat that time. They exit the layer eagerly, expecting to see their names shining proudly at the very top of the rankings. Soon, they walk through the hallways filled with students who had already surrendered and teleported out early. Most of them look utterly traumatized, still haunted by the demons they encountered for the first time. The president's lackey happens to spot our boy and his squad sitting off to the side as well. One glance at his exhausted group makes it obvious. They must have failed instantly the moment they entered. The lackey smugly walks over, mocking Chen for supposedly failing halfway through after all that bold attitude earlier. The loyal dog keeps barking, but his master silences him because the Alliance vice chairman is approaching. The elegant man claps slowly and congratulates the students on their spectacular performance. As he walks closer, the president maintains a calm expression while his underlings nearly tremble with excitement at standing before one of the world's most powerful figures. President Ting confidently extends his hand for a handshake. However, Mr. Cavendish completely ignores it, walking straight past him without even a glance. Suffering such open humiliation, the president feels his pride shatter inside. To make matters worse, the vice chairman loudly calls his rival a true legend. The man grips Chen's shoulder and announces for everyone nearby to hear that he cleared a D-ranked dungeon in just 20 minutes. Not even professional teams from his own guild have ever achieved such a record. Both the council president and his goons go completely speechless. They fail to process how 4 bottom-feeding nobodies beat their full 10-man squad in time and actually cleared a D-rank lair. Meanwhile, Chen does not even blink. Receiving praise from the most powerful man in the country means absolutely nothing to him. At the same time, he cannot help but wonder why such an influential figure personally came to this academy. Anyway, Carl Cavendish calmly states that he will remember Chen's name very well. Then he turns to Gong Lin, the man who invited him here in the first place. The vice chairman casually remarks that his son is talented as well, offering nothing more than a half-hearted compliment. That leaves a bitter taste in the mouths of both father and son. With that said, the vice chairman announces that it is time for him to leave. The director quickly steps in to smooth things over. He declares the final results, announcing that both top teams have tied in score. As a result, they will all receive an official invitation to join the Imperial Guild. That news sounds like heavenly music to Chin's roommates because they are basically set for life thanks to his massive carry. President Ting's lackeys celebrate too, but the man himself is far from pleased with this outcome. Then the director adds that the captains will receive management roles within the guild for their leadership and the $1 million cash prize will be split evenly between them. Hearing that, both team leaders are visibly surprised. Chin quietly worries that $500,000 will not be enough to settle his debt. He needs to find another way to earn the remaining amount and fulfill his promise to the Myathiel Exchange Guild. But that concern may not matter because President Ting openly refuses to accept a tie. He boldly declares that a 1 versus 1 duel will determine the true winner. There can only be one champion. That sudden challenge is so shocking that it draws the attention of the director and even the vice chairman. Alarmed by his nephew's reckless move, the director urgently tries to persuade him to accept the current outcome instead. The old man explains that a tie is already the best possible result, especially after his earlier humiliation. He remains calm, assuming our boy will reject such a pointless duel, but Chin immediately accepts the challenge on the condition that the winner takes the entire $1 million prize. That spicy twist is wild enough to make the vice chairman pause and cancel his departure. With that settled, Chin steps forward to face him directly, ready to settle the score once and for all.